Comadres. Welcome to another episode of Comadreando Podcast. I'm your host, Marcy. And today we have an amazing guest. Her name is Miss D. And I will let her introduce herself. Who are you?
Ooh, that's a good question. Okay, so I am known in these podcasting streets as Double Dose Miss D. So everyone addresses me as Miss D, host of Double Dose of Raw Talk podcast. The good friends know me as Daisy. So that's also, permitted. And creative space, podcaster, still a writer. I'm still working on it. Okay. And, career, mom, driven, you name it, right? That pretty much sums up who I am and what I'm about. So thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Thank you for really being on the show. Good.
Yes.
So I usually tell the comadres how I met my guests, and I met Miss D via this podcasting little circle. She actually invited me to be on her show. Was it last year, Daisy?
Yes.
I think it was like a year ago.
When I brought you on, I think it was the day of my mother's birthday, if I remember correctly.
Yes, I remember.
I think so. Yeah. So it was last year. This past year. It was within this year, and definitely one of the main things that drew me to your show was Comadreando. It was the whole concept around the comadres and just having that. It's because of what it means to us, right? And in our culture. There's so much significance there, right? Of course, you have like the religious aspect of it, of what the comadre is, but there's way more to that. Like my best friends don't understand. If my best friends understood exactly the concept of comadres, they would understand why I don't like calling them my best friends or even my sisters.
Yeah,
these bitches are like my comadres. Like, you know what I mean? Like that.
Like I would take a bullet for my comadre, legit.
Right?
Not from my friends, but for my comadres.
Shout out to my comadres. Like there's so much to that, So that's what drew me to your show, and that's what I love so much about your platform. You created a space where we could come and discuss so much, but we could also kick it back. We could chill, tranquilas. Have our conversation. So dope show, and honor to be here.
Okay, so thank you so much for that. And today's topic, we will be exploring modern motherhood. We've talked about it before on the show, but it's always good to circle back and talk to different amazing moms that I know. So the reason why I chose the topic today is that Ms. D is like one of the best moms that I know. And we're going to be talking about balancing all our hats as women and as mothers. And we're going to talk about taking care of our mental health and a couple of other things that have happened in the media as of this weekend. But before we get into that, we're going to cover all the bases. What is your career?
Okay, so my career space has been for the last 15 years, more or less. Yeah, my son is 15, in healthcare. Totally by accident. Okay. There was one hospital at a job fair at my school. I went to a business school, right? A CUNY, and there was just one hospital there. And here I am learning about, the administrative side of healthcare. Oh, so I'm like, oh, you don't have to be a doctor or a nurse to go into healthcare. And, you think about it, right? And it's like, oh, this is just like clerical. But the way it was set up, stepping into healthcare from a business side, it was my first time being introduced to healthcare as in this is a business. It is the healthcare industry, but it's a business. If we don't get patients, we don't get money, and we need money here. And so we need patients. And there was a bigger picture to what those entry level positions were. What we call today the frontline staff is not just a nurse and a doctor. There is more to that, right? And that's where my career started in healthcare. And it has evolved so much so that it has led into advocacy. It has led into what a patient's experience is. It goes way beyond a diagnosis. It goes from the beginning to the end and the continuation of it. It goes to the bedside manner, right? It goes to the respect, to the courtesy, and having something that a lot of us are still missing in this day and age, empathy. And I like to always highlight that because I advocate through that so tremendously for now to where I am in my career. I'm back in my own community advocating for my own people. The community that raised me, the streets where I grew up, the hood where I grew up. So that's where my career has taken its own course, its own path. I'm still very passionate about it, just like I am in this creative space, and it's been very rewarding. It's been rewarding to be able to give back one way or another. So that's where my career is.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I want you to share a little bit about the book that you wrote with Comadres. Tell us about your book.
Oh, that little ebook. Okay, it's so funny
Don't
because
say little
and I
ebook.
shouldn't
Don't
call
be
it all right.
downplaying
I
it.
shouldn't call it
Bye.
that little ebook. But so let me clarify to why I said that little ebook, because there's gonna be like two more coming out.
Okay.
So it's interesting because when I saw the agenda of the show, I'm like, oh shit, I'm gonna have to like say like, there's gonna be finally the second one coming out, right? So my beautiful gem of an ebook, my journal to self-love, I decided to write that because it's a reflection of one of the lowest points in my life. And full transparency, if you ever tune into my show, I mean, there's a whole lot of rawness and raw mess up in there.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing you're always going to get is you're going to get my raw truth.
Yes.
And it was definitely going through the divorce. There's a whole story behind that. There's a whole, very transparently heartbreak behind that. Being young, having been married, this was not part of my plan, and then boom, it just happens, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's certain things that I fell into deeper and deeper into a darker hole from that, going through that divorce process, that I was more so harming myself essentially. And I didn't even care that I was a mom. Full transparency on this.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to come out of that. And it was a process. For one, it was the people who were around me, my sister, my mom.
Mm-hmm.
They know me so well. They knew something was wrong. They knew, we need to help her one way or another. And then it was learning little things that were going to work for me. I did not start therapy immediately.
Mm-hmm.
I started therapy sometime after that because I was in denial. I'm like, who needs to talk to somebody about my problems? Why are we going to pay somebody for that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Until I felt comfortable going into therapy, there's other things I started to do for myself. And this is even before social media, y'all. This was like 13 years ago. So I used to like talk to myself in my mirror every single day. Like I used to do little things. I used to write love notes to myself on Post-its. I used to like give myself those messages that I yearned for someone to tell me when
Mm-hmm.
I felt like I was like worthless. And so what my journal to self-love is basically kind of like a reflective notes of what I learned for myself and what I was
Mm-hmm.
able to share with other people. And I wanted to put it into an ebook where I could share with others, because one of the things I definitely wanted to send the message out with my ebook was that this is not the end of it. This is
Mm-hmm.
continuous. Things are going to still be happening, and we're still going to have to be working through that with ourselves too. So that was part of my goals. It was sharing what worked for me in this lowest moment, what has continued to work for me. And the reason why there's going to be a second ebook coming out is because this one is going to be more reflective towards my mental health, towards what my experience has been with therapy.
Mm-hmm.
So many years of therapy, on and off therapy, other things that I've learned throughout the years and more experiences to help me with my continuous healing journey, because there's been other things that have happened that almost brought me back to a low point.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where there's going to be a second ebook coming in. But that first ebook was a true dedication to, for one, my sister, to be able to share what it meant to have two people who knew me so well help me through that, and three, it was to show how I was able to help myself. That not many people are very lucky to be able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I figured, let me share. Maybe this might help someone, or maybe someone can relate. So that was the purpose of the ebook.
I love it. And one of my favorite
Yes.
things about the ebook is that it's representation. Like a lot of us Latinas are not out here putting out all our business, being vulnerable, telling people what it is, and sharing those really vulnerable pieces of our lives that, you know, from the outside looking in, as let's say our mom's generation, even though your mom's different, but there's like elders from those generations would be like, "Ay, tú si eres llorona, but why are you being such a crybaby? Why are you sharing this? Why are you talking about your personal business?" But I feel like this is important. It's part of how we are contributing to healing our generational traumas as a collective, not just ourselves, but everybody else. Because by us sharing, we're letting other people know that it's okay for them to be vulnerable, to look for help, and to heal themselves. Because there's things that you can do to take care of yourself.
Yes, there's actually, and on the cover it says "My Journal to Self-Love," and on the bottom it says "A Guide to Becoming Confident Again and like regaining your confidence." And a picture that I put on the cover, and I did it on purpose, and it was intentional. It's kind of like when Kim Kardashian broke the internet. I put a picture of my body on a side profile, and I was bare. All I have was like bottoms on, and like you don't see like a nipple or anything. But I did that intentional for many reasons, and one of them was because most people would think once they read the word confidence or self-love is on the surface, it's body talk, and it's deeper than that. So I did that intentionally for that. The other piece of it that I did, and you know, if my family ever listens to this episode, I hope you don't get like upset at me, but it's because, you know, what kind of a woman, oh my God, in our culture to show off our body, wow. And oh my God, you're like heavy set, you're like a plus size woman, so you would never dare. And I wanted to be able to show, yes, confidence can look like this, but confidence also looks from within, and it's also our mind, and it's also through our healing. So I did that intentional. So it's crazy that you mentioned that, because it's so true. We're breaking so many stigmas on so many levels when we are choosing to share our stories, and we're coming from a community that doesn't really do that or give us a microphone to do so. So,
and then the episode that just aired with Melanie Santos. Shout out to Mel, and I'm thankful that she was able to be on my show. But we were just we were literally talking about that, the fact that our elders like shame us for being us and like standing in our truth and just loving on ourselves the way that we are. A lot of the time, like, I'll dress a certain way because I love dressing sexy. Like when I go out on a date, girl, I'm not going to tell you I'm out here showing a nipple or, you know, like showing my tatas everywhere. But I love wearing me a freakum dress to go out. And that makes me feel extremely sexy. And the tumba nota, like we say in Dominican Spanish, the thing that like lowers your vibe is that the elders are like, "You going to wear that to go out? You don't have nothing else to wear?" I'm like, "Bitch, I look great in this dress. Like, why are you?" No, I'm not changing. They're like, "I said they won't chicho." I'm like, I have them, and they're there, and they look great too. So, what do you want me to do?
Yeah. I love the concept of I'm gonna say it because growing up, right? You know, we're around the same age. High school, we used to call them the hooker boots, right?
Yeah.
I'm all about those boots. Listen, that is my glory when the fall comes around, okay? For my birthday, I'm wearing stockings, I'm wearing my hooker boots, and I'm wearing a black dress. And it was a bit short. So I'm going down the stairs, and my mom was like, "Que bestia, you're going to go out like that?"
She
like,
said, "Que bestia?"
Like,
no,
that's my mother's favorite phrase. I love my mom.
Okay.
Yeah, like that's her expression. Like, oh, I'm surprised. I love it because I know when she says that, I know she's like surprised. Like she'll be like, "Que bestia, oh my God!" Like, and I'm like, "What?" And I'm like, "What was wrong?" She goes, "Just enseñando toda," and I'm like, "I'm not. It's just right there." I'm like, "No, I'm not. I'm not gonna be bending over or anything. It's fine." She's like, "Esta sí que tiene unas piernas," and I'm like, "So it's like you admire me a little bit because I get my legs from you.
I
But you're also like,
know.
oh my God, you're going to go out like that? And it's like,
No,
girl,
she's
you couldn't just say, oh, you
escandalizada.
look
Like, she
nice.
really is.
Right. Like it always. So it always makes me laugh because I'm like, I'm 37. I've been hearing this for God knows how long. You would
Mm-hmm.
think at some point it would stop. I don't think it's ever going to stop, but it goes back to that thing that our elders are so stuck in this mindset and this mind frame. And it's so narrow still that any little thing that us modern women, modern
Mm-hmm.
mothers would do is so scandalous. And oh my God, like you're going to go out like that. And it's like, yeah, I am. It's all right. Look the other way. It's okay. Don't worry about it. So I totally get it. Yeah.
I don't know if you saw the story the other day. I wore these fishnet garter stockings under my dress, my little black dress that I decided to wear. And I'm making an active effort of reclaiming that. And my best friend used to call it whole bag red lipstick. Girl, I am never
Oh,
out of a
yes,
red lip.
girl.
Red lip and my
That's
fishnet
right.
stockings. And if you don't want to look, no tienes que mirar, but I'm going to wear it. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to look
Yes.
damn good doing it. Pero,
Yes.
so can you share a little bit more
Absolutely.
with the comadres? What have been your struggles with mental health? Okay. So I want you to share a little bit more with the comadres. What have been your struggles with mental health?
Yeah. So with mental health, one of the first, and I don't want to call it so much a struggle, but it is part of the struggle,
Mm-hmm.
is that because you've already experienced mental health and you already have an experience with noticing, oh, I was slightly depressed in this moment, right? Or at one point, it may have looked like, my therapist said, listen, if this does not work for us at this time with you and what you're going through right now, I'm going to have to, give you further assistance. I'm going to have to give you a prescription. It's giving borderline to clinical depression, being clinically depressed, right?
Mm-hmm.
That when you aren't successful in your therapies, in your own treatments, in your own practices, right? That when something else could happen that could be a trigger or could put you back into that space of a struggle. One of the things I realized that has happened to me recently is having that fear of being back in that space
Mm-hmm.
because I worry, oh my God, is this going to be something worse this time? A real aha moment that was a real struggle for me is, and this happened in the last year a lot. And I've actually, just this week, I dropped the Solita episode just reflecting on this past year and how the first half of it was so traumatic for me, being in the worst workplace environment of my entire life.
Mm-hmm.
I caught a very terrible panic attack. And I knew I was depressed. I knew I was in a very dark space and I was trying so hard. I doubled up my therapy sessions. I was trying so hard to come out of it. The panic attacks that I got towards the end of my time at that workplace started feeling like heart attacks. Literally, it was pains just going down my arm through my chest, the tightness. Like I literally want, the last time it happened, I had to go to my sister and say, I think you're going to have to call an ambulance because I think I'm having a heart attack. And it wasn't that, it was a panic attack. And that's where the struggle has like recently been revealed to me in my own experiences, where I realized that I've had to revisit a little bit some of my before tactics, strategies, and I call them that. It's strategizing through life. It's
Mm-hmm.
strategizing through so many experiences to not let something that could be this small become something so big because it might
Mm-hmm.
trigger you and putting you back into a time in the past that was really traumatic, right? That was impactful and not so much in a positive way. So I've had to revisit a lot of my previous strategies and tactics, practices, and have to bring them together with some of the newer practices that I've put in place. And part of those that has been with this struggle is realizing more and more that this is seriously never ending, that this is
Mm-hmm.
definitely something I need to take care of on a daily basis, even if I am in a good place. I
Mm-hmm.
need to continuously check in with myself, right? Because I'm not going to stay stuck to doubling up on therapy for the rest of my life.
Mm-hmm.
So at some point, the true success is your therapist is going to want to say, all right, well, you don't need those doubling up on therapies, right? You're doing great. You're practicing this. You're doing that, this, that, and the third, right? To whatever your situation is. that is always going to be the success, when you don't need to go back to the specialist for the problem that you had in the beginning
Mhm.
because you're being successful in your progress. But life happens, and that's been the greatest struggle I've had in this past year, is really putting into work and rework those practices and really bringing myself back together again, because the triggering has tied in my mental with my physical, and
Mm.
it was literally painful, like so painful.
Oh
So
my
that's
God.
been my most recent struggle, and I'm not ashamed of it. I think it's more appropriate to speak on it very freely, because you don't know who else might be going through that and might not be realizing it.
Yeah.
It's hard still to talk about it, to be honest. It was a true aha moment to have that heart attack in front of my sister, in front of my son. My son was very scared. My nephew saw it. My son said, when we realized what it was, my son said, "Mom, I think you need to leave that job." And that's when I really had to hear out how it was now really impacting my family. Where 13 years ago, when I hit a rock bottom, he was only 2. He didn't know what was going on.
Mm.
Today,
Yes.
he does. And that's the second struggle I will give you this time. I can't hide it from him anymore. I can't cover it up. I can't make it look like something else or make it look like mom is just okay. And it wasn't that I was hiding it out of shame. It was because this is the part of motherhood where I'm still learning that although I have those conversations with him, they're not the easiest conversations to have. It's really difficult to
Mhm.
be able to articulate my experiences and see how his experiences are, because I do want him to have a safe space with me. So that's been two of my greatest struggles in the past year, to be quite transparent. But we're there. We're still working through it. I work through it every day. And so one of the things we still have sustained here is we don't talk about what happened negatively, like at work. I don't bring home to work anymore,
Yeah.
even when I'm working from home. Our question is, so how was your day? Is no more how was work.
Mhm.
It's more so, how was your day? Like, did you eat? So I shared with him what happened today with lunch. And I was like, okay, mom, well, now you can eat, sit down and eat. It's okay. Like, it's fine. We do those type of check-ins. We no
Okay.
longer go reflect back to be triggered.
Yes, I like
Yeah.
that. And
Hmm.
you're doing such a good job that he's so conscious that he can like sit down and really look at you and be like, "Mommy needs help right now."
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
just a testament to the type of mother
Yeah.
that you are, for
It's been
real.
hard. I've had a little bit of a of am I questions, am I doing things right, am I doing this part okay.
Mhm.
I want to make sure there's comfort for him too. I don't want him to be afraid of things or to be ashamed of them. I want him to feel comfortable in his own ways to also express himself as a young man that I'm
Mhm.
raising. um, One of the things I realized is hiding my tears hasn't been for the better, right? Because now he started holding back from crying because I didn't realize he was watching me do it. So now it's like, no, it's okay. No, it's
Yeah.
okay. And so, like, the other day, I was like, you know what? I just need a hug. And he hugged me and I started crying. He said, but what's wrong? I said, nothing. I just think I just need to cry. I'm just full of emotions. And
Mhm.
so I'm now stepping into that, because one of the things, and I'm sure you can share this, and maybe a lot of the comadres can too, especially as a single mother, society is always real quick to blame us,
Yeah.
if something goes wrong, and as single mothers raising young men, really quick, we are to blame, or what aren't we doing right?
Mhm.
And so it's very rewarding, and this is what I love about this space, to hear another mom say, you're doing a great job. You know what? We don't hear that often either.
Mhm.
We don't. We only have each other to tell such an amazing compliment that stretches out so much. And so thank you for that, because there has definitely been recent testing experiences, and I've had to kind of like, okay, Daisy, you're doing okay. You're not doing so
Mhm.
bad. Give yourself a little break, girl. Don't be so hard on yourself. But yeah.
Yeah. So it's really the boys, like your son and my son. I feel like they're so empathetic, and I don't think that it's like a sign thing because he's a Scorpio. I don't know what emotionally what they're like, but I know that he's very
I'm a
aware.
Scorpio.
No, but the boy Scorpio is a little bit different than the girls. But in for the most part, he can hear that I cough or I sneeze, or that I seem like my energy's off, and he'll be like, "Mommy, are you okay? What's
Mm-hmm.
wrong, Mom?" And I'm just like, "Y cómo tú sabes that something's wrong, you know?" But the
Mm-hmm.
checking in and actually like caring what how you're doing, and like feeling that I can talk to him, not necessarily having like a full blown conversation like I would have with you or one of my comadres,
Mm-hmm.
but telling him like, "Yeah, I'm okay. I'm just a little sad today," and he's like, "Okay, mommy, I'm gonna give you a hug. You feel better, right?" So the whole thing
Yeah.
is that raising our sons that way, I feel is another way that we're breaking generational curses, because a lot of our elders
Yes.
didn't really raise their sons in that way, and unfortunately,
Absolutely.
um,
Absolutely.
we saw, as our generation, we saw the repercussions of that. So switching gears a little bit, so besides the
Mm-hmm.
therapy, what other things do you do? And I know you write a lot, so the therapy and writing. What else do you do to help
Mm-hmm.
yourself when when you're feeling like you're off, that you're not feeling like yourself?
I have devoted myself to the meditation world. And by that, it used to just be in the morning, and like you will see that in my ebook. But
Mm-hmm.
now, first of all, shout out to the Peloton app who has like 5 to 10 minutes meditation session. Okay, I will be in my office, right, and I have my office all to myself now. And by now, I mean it's like from different from my previous jobs.
Mm-hmm.
I when I need to like really just clear my mind, I like to shut off the lights in my office. I like to put on the app. I like to tune into a session. My AirPods are on, and I literally sit there and I am meditating, even if it's in the middle of the day. I will meditate. Part of my meditation that I do now, even when I'm on my way home, commuting home on that bus, everything is so fast paced, right? And traffic and people.
Mm-hmm.
I could put on a podcast, or I could even just put on music. And literally, what I do for myself in my meditation sometimes, I go back to a time that made me really, really happy. And so when I put music on, I always go back to the music that I can see my parents dancing. And my
Oh.
parents are very well, like alive and healthy, thank
Mm-hmm.
goodness. My dad is very healthy. We had a bit of a health scare with him recently. But the reason why I always go back to songs that I know I've seen them at some point in my life dancing is because that has been the few moments that I've seen my parents the happiest, when they're enjoying
Oh.
music and they're dancing together. And I know that that feeling, that moment of peace has brought me so much joy. And so I always go back to certain music that brings me to a certain memory so that I can feel that moment of peace and I can meditate over that. Because meditation is not just in silence, meditation is not just closing our eyes and just being with ourselves. Meditation can also look in many different ways.
Mm-hmm.
Even when we're working out, and you're planking in that minute and 45 seconds,
Which
you
feels
can
like an
actually have a
eternity.
full. Thank you. And you can have a whole, it feels like a whole eternity, y'all. If you've ever planked beyond a minute, you know that feels like a lifetime. And when they tell you, look up, look straight ahead, you can literally meditate and have a full meditation during that time. So I've devoted myself to the meditation piece a lot more now than I did years ago. And it has helped me so much to really connect with my body and connect spiritually and with my mind. It has helped me so much. So I'm a huge fan of meditation. Absolutely.
I love that. I love meditation too. And I love that you said that meditation doesn't necessarily mean you're sitting there in lotus pose and you're just, sitting in silence. I actually was sharing with somebody, not on the show, but I meditate while I do my dishes. Like, that's the time that I choose to clear my mind. And I'm literally
Yes.
in the moment, and the things that come up, I'm conscious of what's coming up. And then I make sure a mental note to write that down later on to see what it is that
Mm-hmm.
where my mind went to at that moment. And then
Mm-hmm.
through the practice of meditation, like daily meditations, it's easier to pull myself back and not get mad at myself for
Mm-hmm.
having that. Because the thing is, when you're first meditating, you're like, God damn it, I can't concentrate, But now you're mindful of those thoughts. You see them, and
Yeah.
it's like you're letting them go. They're going back
Mm-hmm.
where they came. It's kind of like una brisa. It's a wind, right? The thing comes
Mm-hmm.
in, and then it goes back out again, and then you continue with your meditation, which is so special.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
so besides that event of the divorce, what else made you
Mm-hmm.
look into deeper healing? Because I know you're also on a spiritual path, and you've been, doing the work to heal yourself. So what
Mm-hmm.
else made you look deeper into healing?
So this is actually a really good question, and I'm going to be honest about this. I don't know if I've ever really shared the details to this. One of the things I've definitely wanted to work through with myself was coming back to my faith. So I know spiritually, that's one moment, and then it's your faith, right? Wherever your religion falls into,
Mm-hmm.
and the reason why I say coming back to my faith is because I wholeheartedly believe that faith is what's in has the true power of whatever it is you believe in. And there's
Mm-hmm.
no set in stone of what you're supposed to believe in. So if you're full throttle, deep into spirituality, great. Let your faith be so strong in that is what you believe in, right? If
Mm-hmm.
it's a mix of both, if it's into religion and spirituality, that's fine too. But it's your faith. To what level you have your faith, whether it's to your
Mm-hmm.
universe, right? Whatever that is. And so when I said I wanted to come back into my faith, I always knew how strong prayer was for me, right? And so I know spiritually what that is for me. But I've been feeling for quite some time like something else was missing. I was a young woman, who used to go to church with my mom. I would read during church. I would read in the English mass and the Spanish mass. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like I did all of that. And I always felt connected to my community. I always felt connected to my language, to the languages I can speak. I felt like there was a connection there, right? Because I felt my faith so strong. Something happened around age, I want to say 28, 29. I don't want to give the name so much because it's not something I've ever got permission to speak on. But there was someone that I knew from high school that passed away very suddenly. And we were friends back then.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a shocker to many of us. It was very hurtful. It was very painful. And because I knew who she was, I kept asking myself, why God? Like, why would you do this? Why would this happen? Like, who is up there? Why would we allow this? And that was really when I started like separating myself from that faith. Like I was losing it. I didn't have it. And as the years have continued to go by, as things have continued to occur, transpire, right? Um, fallouts with former lovers, becoming friends, then losing friends, disconnects, different issues going on. I kept asking myself, like, what is it that I'm missing? What is it here? I feel like I'm not complete yet. And
Te sentía
spiritually, I knew that.
vacía.
Spiritually, I knew there was still a void. I knew there was
Mm-hmm.
something still missing for me, right? And I decided to start figuring out, how do I come back to that faith that when I'm there speaking to the universe, when I'm speaking to my spirits to guide me, when I'm speaking to my angels to continue to cover me, when I'm speaking to a higher power in prayer, but something is missing. And so I've worked so much into practicing again my prayers and truly believing in them. I've worked so hard in practicing my conversations with my inner deep spirits and my angels, and really dedicating that time to be honest with myself and to trust again. It was the trust factor. And
Mm-hmm.
slowly but surely, I've been able to regain that faith back and trusting the why things happen and trusting that it's all for a reason and trusting that my spirits are guiding me in the right way, that I am covered and protected, that I am being not only guided but also assisted. And I have to trust where life is going and my path and my story. And I've been able to regain my faith back just really with the trust factor.
Mm-hmm.
And the way I feel today, and I say this time and time again, it is through a level of peace that I have now that when things happen, a discord, an argument, for one, I think twice before I just say something or do something.
Mm-hmm.
I trust that piece. I think twice. Girl, the impulsive Daisy from years ago would have never thought twice, but I think twice today. I think. And when I do something or I say something, I know it's with good intention. I know
Mm-hmm.
the intentions I'm coming in with. It's not ever malicious or ill intentions. I go into this in good faith. And I can wholeheartedly say today, in doing the work spiritually, including spiritually and with a stronger faith, I have been in so much peace. And it has been the best that I've ever felt, sitting in this peacefulness, just knowing where I am spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and faithfully. So I mean, it's really digging deep. Like, you just have to dig so deep because the answers are there. You have your answers.
Yes.
You need to be able to identify what's that void. It's within you to find that answers, but you have to do the work to dig in real deep. You
And
absolutely
let me
do.
tell you, you just gave us a sermon on a Thursday, sis, because I got
I
chills.
did.
I was like, ooh,
Yes.
espérate. Yes, thank you for that.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
it takes so much. Because the thing is, I feel like before I got deeper into my faith, into my healing and spirituality and believing more
Mm.
and trusting, right? That you said that
Yes.
like concisely, and like you hit the nail on the head, like really trusting that they got you. The universe has you, God got you, whatever you want to call a higher power, they got you, right?
Yeah.
And
That's
knowing
right.
that you're protected and that you're blessed.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah.
you know, doing that work, and this peace that I have right now, can't nobody steal my peace. Nobody.
Ever. No.
Nobody.
No. Once you discover it, girl,
For
ooh, forget it. You
nothing.
know, do you remember the saying? I don't know if you've heard it, but I was reflecting on this about a week and a half ago. Do you remember when they used to say, hell hath no fury like a woman scorned? And I thought about that. I don't know if you've heard about that one. I thought about it a week and a half ago. And I said to myself, I said, my whole life since hitting that rock bottom, people used to tell me, karma's a bitch. Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. You gonna do this? You know what? Scratch that. You know what? It's the peaceful. It's the peaceful woman. It's the woman that finds peace. That's the one. Never mind the one that's scorned. Because eventually, I got over it. You get over it. You move on.
Yeah.
It's the one that's in peace. You try and take that peace away from a woman once she has discovered that ultimate peace. Once she has identified it and it's filled up right here. That's the real deal. It's that woman who has found that level of peace. That's the one. Believe it.
You know, it's funny. On the blog I shared, I was dealing, so okay, Marcy from 10 years ago, okay, 5 years ago. Marcy from 5 years ago would have been dating these men that were emotionally unavailable, and then they would gaslight
Girl.
me. And then my toxic trait was like, I know, please, que si yo que, right? And like chasing these men because they were like, they got like an ego trip of me following after them. So now that I have done the work and I have this inner peace, there was a guy that was like, I hope he hears this, but he was just basically like, he was like, oh, I don't know if we should keep talking, da 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 da. And I was like, whatever you want to do is fine with me.
Really?
Yo, ¿pa qué fue eso, loca? He went crazy. He was like,
forget it. They get more offended.
He was like, no, I'll meet you up this weekend. Da, da, da. And then like, it was just too much. Like, he was like texting me at 3:00 in the morning, and I was like, no, homie, I'm good. Like, I really meant that. Like, peace be with you. Dale pa allá. I really, no, I don't want to be in those kind of situations anymore. But I guess this is his pattern, right? He gaslights women, makes himself emotionally unavailable, makes them chase him to make him feel good about himself. And then, you know, he keeps that cycle going. But when I didn't bite the bait, he was like, so his response, no, his response, he did, like, you remember those guys from the hood that they used to be like, Mops, and then you wouldn't respond, and they'd be like, you ugly anyway. That's what he did. He was like, I'm so relieved. He's like, I'm so relieved I wasn't attracted to you anyway. I was like,
what? You know, okay.
So I sent them the emoji. Right? I was like, aye, Captain. I mean, what do you want me to tell you? I was not going to entertain and go back and forth. Yes, I did. I surely did. The emoji with the 2 fingers to the head, saluting.
I see.
All right, boss. Dale para
Let
allá.
me tell you something. Let me say something. There is something about, we live in an age today where dating, even for the modern woman, the modern mother, right?
Mhm.
Um, it's not difficult so much so because the dating pool is like so small. I don't think that's what makes it so difficult. It's really the issues that people have individually with themselves that makes it difficult to date.
Yes, I was
Okay.
saying that the other
And
day.
and so when you say, oh, he was emotionally unavailable, it's like, what did you really want from this? Because I, till this day, will say this: my piece falls into honesty and transparency. You will know from the very beginning what my determination is about what I want with you.
Mhm.
What is my interest? You will know from the beginning. You will. You're going to catch that drift. I'm going to fill you out, and eventually you're going to know. And it's going to be communicated. But a lot of people, and I'm going to say people because it happens to some men too who are very
Mhm.
direct
Mhm.
and very honest. A lot of people in general, they pretend that they're okay with certain things, and it's really because they don't know themselves and they don't know what they want and they don't know what they're going to be okay with. And so this
Yes,
is where they waste other people's times,
that part.
and then you go and you do things with ill intentions, and this is why intentions is so big. Like a
Mhm.
gentleman like that, I'm gonna call him gentleman because I don't know him from a hole in the wall, right? But I probably am giving him too much credit here. But a gentleman like that, right? Could you even see yourself having very civilized
Never ever.
conversation? You can't. Why? Because he is just such a person with ill intentions that you can't even keep a person around like that for a friendship, because
Bro,
he felt the need to go and find a way to hurt you in a
I mean,
sense,
I mean,
to
it
see how
just
he could
lit
get
off
his
my
way.
back at the end of the day. But I was just like, and then the thing is, like, he would be like, "Oh, I want to talk to you on the phone," and then like when you're talking on the phone, he's all nonchalant, like como que no le importa, and I'm like, bro, ¿para qué estamos hablando en el teléfono? Why are we talking on the phone? Like,
That's
let me
right.
tell you, show me the interest. Like, I am a mirror. Right now, I'm a mirror for everything, for everybody, and for everything. So I'm gonna show you the same amount of interest you show me.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be
Yeah.
like going mad hard, like no.
No. Sorry.
It's a what is it? It's a seesaw. It's gonna be a balance in there
Hmm.
somewhere, and if there's no balance, then Marcy's gonna hop off the seesaw when it goes down. That's it. Because
I'm gonna be like, my spirits told me to not waste my time with you. That's what my spirit says. That's my liner now. My spirit sent me a message and said, this is over. That's how my liners go now.
my
Yeah, I'm
angels.
telling you. It's my angels. They guided me this way, not this way, this way.
Oh man,
I can't.
I love
Oh
it.
man.
This is such a good
Oh wow.
conversation. Okay, so let's get messy, like you say on your show. I love that line. So we're gonna talk about messy topics that I really want to get your
Mm-hmm.
perspective on them. So
Yes.
I sent you this when I invited you to the show. I sent you this message, right? I had already invited you. Or it was like right when I invited you. Anyway,
It
so
was
I
right when
had
you invited me. We
yeah.
both
So
thought about this, girl, and I was
yeah.
like,
I
ooh,
invited Daisy to the
yes.
show, and then shortly after, I think the next day or the day or 2 days later, Mr. Kanye West, Yeezy, came out on
Mm-hmm.
an interview stating that he isn't bipolar, something to the extent that he isn't bipolar, but that he might be a little autistic, quote unquote, like Rain Man.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
really thought that it was such a wild take. But before I go
Mm-hmm.
ham, I'm gonna let you go ahead and tell me what your thoughts are on that.
Okay. So, as I started this conversation from the beginning, I am in healthcare. And so mental health is something, just beginning with my career alone, is something that I am very passionate about. Now, let's go into another aspect of healthcare when we talk about the needs, right, of our entire community. And in our entire community, by community, I mean us, all the people,
Mm-hmm.
we have certain community members who have special needs, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one thing I am extremely passionate about is when people have the feel the entitlement or have audacity to disclose or share or spread misinformation.
Mm-hmm.
And that is one of the things that really just like triggered me a bit in that conversation of his. Um, way back when he was still married to Kim,
Mm-hmm.
and this whole thing started coming out about him struggling with mental health. I'm gonna be very honest. I was on an IG live and I was like, I blame Kim and her family for all of this because she's like not there for him. Like, based on what I had seen on the show, yes, I watched every single episode of
Mm-hmm.
all them seasons. And so I just felt like, based on what I saw, I just saw a lack in her. I mean, if the Kardashians were trying to make themselves look like in good light, no, I thought there was a lot that she was missing out on. Fast forward to more years later when he's still doing his damn thing, I kind of felt bad. And I'm like, damn, I held her accountable for something when in reality, he's also being very irresponsible with the things he's
Mm-hmm.
saying, the things he's engaging in. Like, this is beyond her. And maybe she truly did not know how to help him.
Mm-hmm.
And so I felt terrible that I was just so like narrow minded and I seen the bigger picture of what was going on with him.
Mm-hmm.
And so where I am today when it comes to him, I could understand with the way his behaviors are if there is a mental health component by which he has a diagnosis. I can understand that. But when he sits there and says, I don't think I have this, I think I have this. For one, it's giving hypochondriac. Two, it's giving misinformation. You're trying to downplay a mental health diagnosis when someone has already said that that's what you have, right?
Mm-hmm.
But most importantly, you're also trying to give a look to another diagnosis that, to be quite honest with you, when we think of autism, right, and community members who are autistic, that looks like so many different people. It doesn't
Yeah.
have one look. And so for him to try and kind of like make them equal is total misinformation.
Mm-hmm.
For him to try and sound like the expert because of what his, and then he compares it to a movie. I mean, don't get me wrong. Rayman is a very interesting movie. There was a play also.
Mm-hmm.
I heard that was interesting, great. But where's your evidence? Where is your actual information to why you believe it's this and not that?
Mm-hmm.
You know, it don't give us a movie to say that. That falls under misinformation for me. And when we are thinking special needs, the actual needs of people, of all people, when we're thinking taking it all the way to healthcare, medications, and the stigmas and all this other stuff, misinformation is enemy number one.
Yes.
That is my thoughts on this. I was very upset when I heard what he said. I was just like, oh, he just took it way too fucking far. And I'm not gonna lie, I was like waiting to see what community members were going to say and what was their feelings about this, because you don't use it as a scapegoat or to hide behind it. You don't use it as an excuse.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very disappointed in him that he would go that route, to be quite honest.
And the fact that he picked such a stereotypical movie of autism to compare himself to,
Yeah,
that he's a genius because he's like Rain Man and he's autistic.
mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna discount that he may be on the spectrum. Like, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I'm not a neurologist.
Right.
The only person that can give you a diagnosis of autism is a neurologist, right? And they have to do a full neuropsych evaluation, right? But for him to use a stereotype and to feel so free making these claims, the thing is, I feel like Kanye, yes, he has mental health issues, but he needs the right people around him. He needs people to check him on the stuff that he says. Because that wasn't the only thing that was a hot take that he said that was like completely wrong.
Oh, I know.
Like the anti-Semitic stuff and you know, I really want to know what the thinking behind it is, but also like, it's not my business. It's just, we need to be more conscious of the stuff that comes out of our mouths. And him as a celebrity, he has the obligation to be more conscientious of the things that he says. And before he starts talking, running it by somebody that's going to be like, yo, Kanye, that's not it. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I just felt like I told you, I was upset. I didn't like the fact that he, first of all, claimed to be autistic. Second of all, he's over here using Rain Man, which is another thing, because the autism, like you said, it's a spectrum. You met one person with autism, you met one person with autism. No two people with autism are alike. They might have similar, you know, characteristics, or they might have similar comorbidities, but that doesn't mean that they have the exact same experience, because not only does
Exactly.
race come into play, financials come into play, and access comes into play as well. You know, a person
Absolutely.
who
100%.
is well off and is not a person of color is going to have a different experience, and a male is going to have a different experience than a person that is from the hood, is poor, doesn't have access to all the things, and is relying on the educational system that we have in place now in the United States to access
Right.
different services. So, you know, regardless of what, you know, I just feel like it's problematic, and we need to get him some help somehow. I don't know, you know,
Oh,
I don't know who's going to hear
100%.
this. He needs like serious help. But the thing is, giving him the help, and he needs to want to get help. Because this is like, I was depressed, and until I decided that I wanted to go to therapy, and I wanted to see a specialist about it, and I wanted to do these things for myself, nobody was going to force me to go anywhere.
Same. Exactly. Same. And I think with Kanye in particular, because listen, at the end of the day, he has a following. He still has fans. Okay. There are still people who will debate, right? Was it, you know, what he said? Was there not some truth to it with the anti-Semitic comments or any other comments he makes? You know, there's still going to be people who are going to explore what he says as long as they're fans, right? My thing is, when you have someone who has a platform, he has a full platform, regardless of what he's been canceled by, he still has a platform. To what point do the people around him who support him, who are fans, right, who are friends, do not see that this man does need, more so at this point, an intervention? Because a lot of the things he's saying is one thing to be opinion, is another when it's not necessarily healthy. When it's unhealthy for himself and unhealthy to communities, right? So this is why I say so much, I highlight the misinformation, because there is enough going on in the world where we have an array of different diagnoses and different needs for different, I don't like to call everyone patients. At the end of the day, we're community members, right? We're all part of the human being species community here, right? Let's call it that. And we have so much that we deal with that the more we try and educate ourselves in, to try and see how we can help ourselves, what type of treatments we need, what type of course of care we need, right? And so when you have someone with such a strong platform who comes on and takes away from one diagnosis to want to throw it on another, right? And to your point, it's a community that is still very much so stigmatized. Autism, believe it or not, I mean, well, I'm sure you believe it because you form part of this community, having your own child, having specific needs, right? I have seen in healthcare when people come in who are not informed or do not know, or first time parents, and the first line that comes up, something's wrong with him. Something's wrong with her. It's like something is wrong, right? Because they don't recognize what it is, right? Or they may just be different. But it's like there is something wrong. And so when you think about the misinformation that he spewed in that moment, it's kind of like, no, it's not this. It's really this, but I'm a genius. What exactly are you trying to say in this?
Yeah.
Like, what were you trying to say? Complimenting one over the other, trying to downplay one from the other. What were you trying to do? Because it's still giving very much so misinformation. And that's the part that I find very hard to continue to support this man.
Yeah.
When you, as someone who has a platform, is giving misinformation about some serious topics of conversation and factors of life for many people. So those are my thoughts. That's my take on his wall takes.
So, and then the thing is that there's other actors that go on and they're like, you know, I think I might be on the spectrum. Like, there's been people like Seinfeld that have said things like that. The guy that did Silence of the Lambs, what is his name?
Oh my God. Why did I just forget?
I'm gonna look it up.
Wow. Good Lord.
Silence of the Lambs.
Not us forgetting someone who's like,
I cannot. And I just posted him the other day. Silence of the Lambs. Here we go. Anthony Hopkins.
Anthony Hopkins. God forgive me.
Anthony
Spirit,
Hopkins.
forgive me for forgetting that name.
Dan Aykroyd, Anthony Hopkins. There was a bunch of them that have said that they think that they might be on the spectrum, but it wasn't like, oh, I'm a genius. This is why, because I'm on the spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
It was more like, oh, I'm seeing more people with autism, and I can relate to a lot of these traits. And it was kind of like more of a curiosity. And Anthony Hopkins actually got diagnosed at the age of 77 with autism.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And so here's the thing in that example, Marcy, if he said, I think, and then he went to see if in fact, I could commend him for that.
Mm-hmm.
I can commend him for believing that there might be a case for him, a situation, because he recognized certain things. And then he went and he tried to see if he can figure this out for himself.
Yes.
I can commend him for that. I could give Kanye a little bit of credit if he actually tried to do that for himself, but he's not. He's just all of this.
Running the mouth.
That's the problem.
All the time.
Yes.
So Kanye, please get some help. We want to see black men win, and right now,
for real,
is given a lot of misinformation and miseducation of the masses at this point. So moving on to a little bit more sad topic.
Yes.
We're recording a couple of days after DJ Twitch, who was part of the Ellen Show at one point, took his life. So the most shocking thing for me and the ladies of the network, because we have like a gallinero group chat. The biggest thing of in the group chat was that he seemingly was okay. He literally this weekend, I believe this weekend was the anniversary with his wife, and he was recording TikToks with her and posting them. And it was just really shocking. And my condolences to his family and his loved ones. But
absolutely,
and this is gonna sound so cliche. It's like, a lot of people, you never know. Like Robin Williams was like one of the biggest ones for me, and you never know what people are going through, because they could be smiling, but inside they're like crumbling at the foundation. So I saw this post by Emily De La Cruz, which is somebody I love and I follow, and she said that the whole rhetoric of check on your strong friends is played out. Okay. And the reason why she said that is because it's almost as symbolic to the Black Lives Matter, putting a black little box in your Instagram, or blacking out your profile picture for the day, because it turns out to be more performative than actually finding a solution. Because the thing is, with the way the culture is set up nowadays, people are not willing to actually help other friends when they're going through those deep cycles of depression. A lot of people are not willing to, dive into the cave and fish that person out when they're at their lowest in that moment. So, I just wanted to like kind of point that out and see more or less what you thought about that, because I feel like she really hit the nail on the head. Because the thing is, a lot of people, because like when at least when I'm going through depressive episodes, a lot of the time I'm just like, people text me, people call me, I don't pick up because I don't really want to deal with them. I don't want to, force myself to like interact with that person, because I'm not where I need to be at that moment. But shout out to all my friends that are persistent and that will pop up at my house like CIA if need be. But like, what are your thoughts on that? Like what she said and kind of the whole situation with DJ Twitch?
Yeah, so rest in peace to DJ Twitch. Stephen Boss. He's actually, so, once upon a time I wanted to be like a dancer. And so any shows with dancing or any movies with dancing, I'm all up in it. Right. And so I kind of knew of him from like the dancing, right?
Mm-hmm.
All shows dancing. I love it.
Yeah.
I just so beautiful and so artistic. Right. And so I've known him since then, but being able to see him on Ellen, of course, more frequent, was very, very beautiful because you really got to see a different side of him. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really sad. It definitely took me by surprise. I was totally gasped for air when I saw that. So heartbreak. I literally was at a loss for words,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then I started saying like, oh, you never know what people are going through. Of course, I agree. You never do.
Mm-hmm.
You start seeing the check on your strong friends. He was smiling to the very last. He's always been the one to always be there for people. So many celebrities who knew him were posting like, I just saw you. You were fine. Like, you look so happy,
Mm-hmm.
And so here's my thing on this with what Emily wrote, because I follow Emily too, and I saw what she wrote, right? And I want to be very transparent on this. I am actually someone who has dealt with her depressive moments too. And I am one who, because I want to believe and I want to trust that because of what I've been exposed to in my career, I've seen people who have made actual attempts. Obviously, I'm able to speak to them because they weren't successful.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anyone who's been successful at the attempt, I don't get to talk to them.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen people who have made the attempts. There is no official look to this.
Mm-hmm.
Some have looked extremely sad. One of them, in fact, I remember, and I'm not disclosing any patient information here, so I'm not trying to lose my career,
Mm-hmm.
but one of them I remember said that she was sad she didn't succeed because she was at peace doing it. She felt happy knowing that she was going to make that move and that she was going to be done with what she was experiencing. So I believe there is no actual look to this, and this might be a trigger, and so we should have probably thrown in a trigger warning there with this part.
I'll put it at the beginning of the episode.
But yeah, but it doesn't have a look. It just doesn't. It looks, again, so many different ways that we can cope with things and deal with things. And we can smile, we can cry, we can be upset, we could be serious, we could be in the moment, we could be thinking, we could be on a high, right?
Mm-hmm.
It just looks in so many different ways. I say all of that to say, because we do all cope differently, it's so funny because I kind of put an IG story today, like just a sequence of just conversation and thoughts. And it's really giving people that grace and the space to cope and deal with things in the way that they know best.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why I say that is because I am one that it might take me some time to answer a text message, but I answer. And the reason why I answer is because I also don't want to give that scare to people that I love because I'm in a depressive moment.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think about what that side looks like because of what I've experienced in my career. I think about that.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the time when a person's in a coma, I don't get to talk to them because they took an excessive amount of pills. I talk to their family. And so to see what their family goes through too, it's heartbreaking. But again, not all of us are exposed to that. Not all of us have all those lenses, right? So I only have certain lenses because of my career. And so I say all of that to say, give people the space and the grace. Give them that opportunity to cope with things and deal with things. I've also been that friend that I've texted and I've texted and I've texted, and I don't get an answer till like a week or 2 or 3 later. But I knew something was wrong. And eventually that my best friend will come around and say, and shout out to my best friend because we do it to each other. They come around and say, yeah, something's been wrong. Something's been going on.
Mm-hmm.
And so what do your friends say? I knew it. I knew it because this is not like you. I know when you disengage a little, right? I've also had the friend who the friendship has been lost because I spend months, about 7 to 8 months. Hey, just checking in on you. Hey, just seeing how you're doing. Hey, we were supposed to meet up. We didn't. I've called, no answer. I've texted, no answer. And at that point, it became a very blurry line to me. Where I feel that, again, the space and the grace of letting them cope and deal with what they're coping with and dealing with, right? But also accepting that they just don't want me to be a part of that.
Okay.
And the reason why I have to highlight that is because in me thinking just how bad this situation might be for this person, assuming that it revolved around depression, right? I'm going to say assuming, because at one point I said, oh my God, what if he had a heart attack and he passed away and his phone is just gone? And no one's answering me because of that. Like, I thought the worst. And then it started triggering me. It started triggering my own sadness. It started triggering my own worries. And it started triggering my own depression. Scared for someone else who I wholeheartedly have love for as a friend. And this is why I highlight the grace and the space for people, right? To identify. I believe Emily also highlighted, like, who are those people who she knows are going to be there for her. That's also very important. I agree with her wholeheartedly on that. Is knowing who you can also be persistent with, who you can also be there to make sure they're okay and not quit and show up to their house and show up to their job if you have to and be like, bitch, I'm gonna put out an Amber Alert for you. You don't fucking answer me like today because I just need a O or a K or both.
But or just like the fucking
so
message.
I know you're good.
Like the message.
Or just like the message.
If you have an
and then I'll leave you alone.
Or on WhatsApp too.
When you're ready. Hello. Like, I just need that. Or if I see that you read the message and you just did it, I'm okay with that too. Yeah. I just need to make sure you're alive. And then I'll back off and I'll give you that grace and that space for when you're ready to talk. But everything that Emily wrote, there's a lot of truth to that. There is. I do think that it's been played out. I do. I am the person who has totally posted the black square and the icon, but I'm also the person who continues to contribute to Black-owned businesses, to Latina-owned businesses. I am that person who doesn't just sit there and say, yes, us Latinas are underpaid. I'm the person who supports the Latina small businesses too. I'm the person who has learned how to advocate for herself when it came to the salary negotiation with her next step in her career, you know? So when it comes to even this part of it, as someone who is very passionate and an advocate for mental health and lives it, we have to be also understanding. I've also had to hold myself accountable and responsible for when I'm fucking up as a friend and I'm not doing my check-ins, and hold myself accountable for that because I would want it for my dear and near to do it for me. Yeah. I would want my people to do it for me. So Emily, everything that she wrote, there is so much truth to it. There's a lot that we do have to understand and see, you know. We have to be able to identify our own troubles and recognize if we're going to be able to be there for people and be the person for other people and do the work in that too, because it is a commitment. It is, you know, and I think she's right. You know, the whole thing of check on, especially the strong ones. For one, who am I to sit there and say that person is my strong friend and that person isn't? Depression can look like so many different ways. And that's exactly how I started my response here. It could look like the person who looks really strong and smiling, and it could look like the one that's crying every single day. And both could have the same thoughts, like both cannot. That's the bottom line. And that's where my thought process goes with that. So I agree with her in a lot of what she posted and a lot of what she explained today. I do.
That's absolutely awesome. So I was thinking about this training that we went and that we did. It was like a PTSD training that we did in the DOE after the pandemic. And we saw this video and it was a bunch of children and there was a kid that looked very sad. But then they were like, which child do you think committed suicide? Which, sorry, trigger warning. And it was the one that was smiling and saying hi to everybody every day. Yeah. So you never know where people's minds are at, but definitely, like you said, giving the grace and the space and letting people respond in their time and not writing them off just because they're having a sad girl week or a sad girl month or a sad girl 6 months. I actually experienced that. The ladies of the network, we went through that with one of somebody that we know that we all have in common, and we kept reaching out. It had been a year almost. And we were seeing that she was reading the messages. And then at one point she just stopped reading the messages. And then we just all rallied and like moved cielo, tierra y mar. We moved everything to find her. And we found her. And you know, something had happened. It wasn't, thank God it wasn't anything that wasn't something that she could recover from. but she was going through her mental health issues, and you know, she was spiraling at one point, and then we were giving her the
Yeah.
space and the grace to, like, you know, reach out to us when she was ready. But we found, like, we had to find her, like we had to reach out and like
Yeah.
do make an active effort. Other people from our friend group were like, no, fuck that, because I've been depressed, and you know, that's fucked up, and you don't do that to your friends. And I'm just like, you're being a little selfish, because like I can tell you right now, there's days that I'd just be laying in bed, people text me, and I'm just like, fuck it, I respond when I respond. Like, I don't want to talk to that person right now, and it's nothing to do with them. I don't have the mental space to hold space for them to have that conversation or to explain why I'm feeling like that. Or maybe I need to sit down with myself and analyze why I'm feeling that way. I haven't really, like, done the work to figure out why I'm having a sad Marcy moment, you know?
Yeah. And you know what's funny? I wanna elaborate on something you just said because I want to clarify this. When I said the friendship was lost, it goes hand in hand with what you say. Don't write off a person. When I said the friendship was lost, I meant that I now realize that when I said, oh, maybe that person no longer wants me to be a part of their life, right?
Mm,
I realized that we no longer have that closeness and what our friendship
mm,
once was. But when that person resurfaced, there was an attempt to connect, and unfortunately, we're not going to be able to connect how we once were. But I still gave a recognition to what they have worked on throughout this whole time that they have not responded to me. I
mm-hmm,
still congratulated them on whatever it is that they have accomplished. And it was good to see that they were okay. And I said that to them. I
mm-hmm,
said, I'm glad to see you're okay and congratulations. And actually, that person actually responded to me and said, in that space, right?
mm-hmm.
Did not go back to our conversation, never responded to none of my text messages. But in that moment, he said, thank you so much. I'm glad to see you're good too. Oh, and happy birthday. I know it was your birthday this week.
Oh,
So it's
wow.
like, oh, okay. So they remember too. So when I say that, it's not writing a person off. I agree with you. Don't just write a person off, right?
Mm-hmm,
Because you don't know what people are going through. But I do feel that sometimes we do have to be that level of understanding where for me in that moment, it was just like, okay, we lost this friendship.
yeah.
Doesn't mean I just don't know you. It just means we just lost the friendship.
Mm-hmm,
But I'm still very happy, and I'm extremely happy to see that that person was doing well and that they're okay. And that
yeah.
and that in itself was enough for me in that moment. So I agree with you. It's not about just writing a person off. Absolutely not.
And it takes maturity, and I love that you added that you were happy for the transition and the changes that person had gone
Yeah.
through, you know. So
Oh yeah, for sure.
that is amazing. So through your healing process, how has that helped you? How has the new knowledge helped you be a better mother or become a mother in a
Oh,
better way?
that's a really good question. So, okay, remember when I said you don't write people off, right?
Yeah,
So I am actually the person who, in other situations, I am the happy-go-lucky cutting people off, right? But I mean, I admit that I am.
you're
But
like,
the
you
reason
get a
why I say
black,
is
you get
because
a black, you get a black.
so okay, so wait, I actually don't block people.
No.
Let me explain. No, when I say I just cut people off, I stop speaking with them. I stop socializing
Mm,
with them. If they want to block me, they can. I don't need to block you from my life. I just don't need to socialize with you. But I remember I said I don't do things with ill intentions. So when I make the decision to cut a person off, there's a reason. There's
mm-hmm,
always a reason to that. I don't just do it just for fun, right? But I say that to say, because I realized that a lot of those moments could have been fixed or probably addressed if we would have just had a conversation. And it takes two
mm-hmm.
to tango, right? So it
Yeah.
takes two parties. And so one of the things in my healing process and holding myself accountable and being responsible with my actions and my decisions too, and looking back and saying, okay, maybe in this instance I could have done this a little different.
Mm-hmm,
Maybe it could have had a different result. How my mothering looks like now, my son came up to me just a week and a half ago and shared that he had a moment with a friend who he thought, they were going to start dating, didn't happen, but they lost the friendship. That
mm-hmm.
person not only just stopped talking to him, but completely blocked him. So I said, well, what did you say? What did you do? He's like, Mom, let me show you. He showed me. I'm like, you know what it is? Maybe that person is just not ready for that. You guys are young, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe she thought she wanted something and she realized she didn't. Maybe she doesn't want to mess up the friendship, doesn't know how to tell you, right? So I said, so what you have to take from this is don't just cut her off. Don't just do that because you know your mama is the person who will do that when she feels that something's been done wrong to her. But you know, if she ever comes around, hear her out. Hear what she has to say. Speak your truth. And maybe your friendship doesn't have to be exactly how it was before, but maybe you don't have to cut that person off.
Mm-hmm.
And I sat there and I said, be a different person than your mom.
Mm-hmm.
Be a different person in the sense that I now know how certain things could have been done differently from me as a person, as a friend, as an individual, and be a better person than that and be a different person than that where you do things a little bit different than how your mom does things. And that's where my healing process has taken me. I want to make sure that what I'm learning through this, where I could with my growth and my development, where the areas where I could do things different and better, right? To continue giving that better version of myself, right? Than what I was yesterday, is also being transparent with him as he is becoming his own better version of himself as a young man to one day be a man, right? A full grown man, and whatever that looks like for him. I want him to be able to say, not that my mom never recognizes where she's wrong. I want him to say, no, my mom apologized when she was wrong, and my mom recognized where she could have done things different. That is something I didn't have growing up, and I don't hold that over my parents. I don't. I've said it. They've heard me, whether they agree or not, because they never do nothing wrong. That's on them, and that's okay. My commitment to life today is to not repeat what I believe I needed. I scrutinized my parents for in that one moment. I believe it's my job to not repeat that because then I would be a hypocrite as a parent.
Yes.
And so that's where healing has taken me. It's helped me to teach him in a different way and in a better way and different from me to the things that I know could have been different and could have been better. That's where healing has taken me with motherhood.
Oh my God. And on that note, comadres, we're going to end the episode how I always end it, which is follow me at Comadreando Pod, and you can follow Miss D at, please drop her handle.
Yeah, so okay, it's difficult, so I'm gonna just send the link so Marcy can put it in the show notes. But
well, it's double dose of Miss D.
C, and there's some like underscores in there and like a period and whatnot on IG, but also the show is Double Dose of Raw Talk. I am on IG, Apple Pods, and all that. There's a pretty dope episode I have with Marcy on that is so dear to me that you came on to share your truth and your story. But yeah, this is a beautiful space, and thank you so much for having me here.
Amazing. Okay. And comadres, you know that if you have any questions at all, please feel free to send me a Comadre-Gram via email at marcy@comadreandopod.com or slide up into my DMs. Thank you for spending time with your comadres. Bye, everyone.